Ryan McCaffrey with IGN, joined by IGN tech editor Michael Hyam. Big Xbox announcement, Michael. We've got a handheld, an X-Boy, if you will. It's not actually called that, but it's we've just seen it revealed. And let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. We learned the basics already. What are the specs of this thing? Like, is it going to play our Xbox games in a way that looks good and runs well?
Well, first off, it is a very powerful handheld PC that's using the AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme processor. Now, if you've been following how PC handhelds have been, that is probably one of the most powerful handheld processors out there right now. And there's two models. There's the Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X. That's the more expensive model. That second one right there is using the Z2 Extreme. And I got hands-on with it, and it is very, very powerful. This thing is more powerful than a Switch 2, than a Steam Deck, than the previous ROG allies. So this is Asus and Xbox collaborating together on the hardware front and bringing sort of that PC power to a handheld. Now there's much more we can get into, but I think the important part when it comes to specs, instead of getting into like all the PC gaming terminology, which some people will be familiar with, I think it's important to understand that it is a 1080p screen, IPS panel, 120 hertz with VRR. So
all right.
Yeah, it looks really, really good.
And you got to go hands-on with it. Like, you actually got to try this thing out. So, key question, what'd you think? Like, was it impressive?
I think from a technical perspective, it was very impressive. I played Gears of War Reloaded, and I got to see it running the Xbox app in the background. That's the only thing I got to experience, but I will say it was running full 1080p, all high settings, solid 60 frames per second. So you will get that level of performance from the handheld. From an ergonomic perspective, I think it's interesting because it's a little bit more bulky, even more bulky than Asus ROG Ally, the previous model, because the grips are essentially chopped off Xbox controllers. And so the system itself is bulky, but you're going to get that full controller feel. And I think that's one of the things that have been lacking in other handheld PCs like the previous Asus ROG Ally and maybe the Switch 2 to some extent. The Steam Deck really nailed the ergonomics, and I think that the Xbox Ally X and the Xbox Ally are really locking in on the ergonomic perspective. So portability, I'm not sure, but in terms of like the gameplay experience, it's really good.
And I know it's software dependent, but did they give any hint on battery life of like what kind of range we can expect on this thing?
So we got the battery specs, but they didn't. They're still in the middle of testing. So that's the one thing we asked was what is battery life, because this thing is powerful. So the Xbox Ally has a 60 watt-hour battery. The Xbox Ally X has an 80 watt-hour battery. So make with that what you will, but they are in the middle of testing. From my perspective, I think battery life is going to be one of the contentious things. I don't want to put too much stock into battery life on something that is as powerful as this. Even using the previous Asus ROG Ally, putting that into turbo mode and overclocking the specs on that thing, it's going to drain the battery. But I think it has enough power to where you can set it to a lower wattage and still get really good performance. But that is yet to be determined.
All right, can you give me some actual numbers for this thing for those of us that like to keep track of exactly what kind of numbers we're looking at?
Yeah, so the Xbox Ally base level model has 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD.
Okay.
The Xbox Ally X, the upper tier version, comes with a 1 terabyte solid state drive and 24 gigabytes of RAM.
Nice.
And that's pretty good. Like that's kind of what you expect from a top tier handheld device or laptop or any gaming device really. So you are going to get a lot of RAM, you're going to get a lot of storage. And if you get the base level Xbox Ally, 512 gigabytes is going to
go quick.
It's going to go pretty quick. So storage is something I'm paying attention to in terms of if it's expandable, but that is what these two models are working with.
So kind of the other key question from actually you getting to use this thing is, I mean, Microsoft's whole campaign now is, this is an Xbox, everything's an Xbox, but is this running an Xbox kernel basically, or is it just a cleverly disguised Windows 11 handheld device?
It's both. It's kind of both. I had some hesitancy when they said that this is still running Windows in the background. I was like, ooh, that's one of the weak parts of a handheld PC is when they have to run Windows.
Because it's a hog, right? Like compared to Steam OS, which is pretty lean and mean.
So they understood that, and so they're running a modified version of Windows that cuts out all the unnecessary tasks and operations and processes,
Almost like a Dreamcast running Windows CE, right?
yeah. So it cuts out all the nonsense because that is one of the weak parts of the previous Asus handheld, and runs a modified version of the Xbox PC app.
Okay.
So when you boot this thing up, it boots straight into the Xbox app, and it's been modified to navigate with a controller. I think there's still some snags I'm running into in terms of like how to navigate that. You know, it's not final. This is still an early build, but I think that's one aspect that they do need to work on is how to navigate that app. It's much better than navigating on like a tablet for now, but there's still room for improvement. But I will say that they have considered all aspects of PC gaming. So you do get the Xbox app, and that's primarily what this thing is going to be working off of. But you are able to aggregate other libraries. So Steam, ROG, Epic. You will be able to import your games into the Xbox app so you can boot them straight from that app without having to open up other apps. And so I guess that's one way in which they're keeping things pretty like slim, lean, streamlined. That's the thing that I was concerned about most, and I think they're getting it right.
All right, so I just built a new Windows 11 desktop gaming PC, and that's kind of a whole other video, but there are some things about Windows 11 that are just baked in that I can't seem to get rid of. And so did they speak to that at all on a device that's meant to be very optimized for battery life, for performance? Like, what do we got?
Yeah. So I mentioned that they have slimmed down Windows and focused on the Xbox app. But I think around that too, there's a lot of concern about things like Asus's own software suite called Armory Crate. If you used the ROG Ally in the past, you know how bloated and how hard to navigate it used to be. That's still in this device, but I will say that they understood the assignment. You do have the Xbox button, which pulls up the Xbox app as if it is an Xbox console. So it's easy to navigate in that way, but you also get that Armory Crate integration in there. But I do think it's important to have that on some level because that's where you can control like the wattages, how much battery life you're using, and kind of tune your performance for this thing. So it still has levels of that. I only got to mess around with it a little bit, but so far I think it is a smart version of previous Armory Crate. If you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. It's just a way to tweak your settings and stuff. I wish we didn't have to use that particular app itself, but I think if we do have to use it, this is a smart integration of it. One thing though, when you're talking about Windows too, is that they're using the Ryzen AI processor. And so that means there's gonna be
You just said AI, which all the commenters are immediately, they're all typing right now.
You hate to see it. But that is something that they are pushing with these processors, and you see things like Copilot on Windows. So
that's one of the things that I would talk about in that other video of things that annoy me. Anyway, please continue.
Let me tell you about Copilot. There is a version of Copilot on this device, and they weren't able to speak to it too much because I think they're still working on what that actually looks like and how it functions. But there is going to be some version of Copilot that works as like, they pitched it as, oh, you can ask Copilot if you need like advice on like game guides or whatever.
I don't want to do that.
Yo, if we
can we just have it not take up any resources on this thing whatsoever? That would be great. That would be ideal.
If we can direct them over to the IGN wikis though, that'd be pretty sick though. But no, we didn't get to see how it works, but that is something to anticipate. And I think that's one of the concerns that I will be paying attention to as we learn more and as things develop with the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X.
All right, well, what about weight, Michael? Because from what you're saying and from just looking at it in the video, it is not a small device. Is this going to be like carrying around a boulder in my backpack when I travel with it?
I will say, in my hands, it didn't feel heavy. So it didn't feel like I'm holding a brick or whatever, because it looks heavy. Don't get me wrong. The last thing you want is for your arms to get tired as you're holding it. I don't think that's going to be a concern. And if it is, get your weight up. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just playing with you.
Hit the gym.
No, I'm just
work on that upper body.
I'm just messing with y'all. I think this is probably as light as it could possibly be. Granted, how much technology and how much power and battery life is packed into this thing. It's as light as possible, but it is by no means, it's not like a Switch or anything.
I know you had a limited time with it, but I think maybe like, I've got a Steam Deck. I think Steam Deck's maybe the baseline for this for now. Could you roughly compare it to the weight?
Maybe a little bit heavier than a Steam Deck. Compared to if you ever use an Asus ROG Ally, that thing is dense. It's not heavy, but it is dense. And I think this thing is dense, which kind of speaks to like the way it's manufactured. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be any heavier than what we've already used.
From everything you've said, I have what is a very large number with a dollar sign in front of it. Like, did they give you any indication on price? And assuming not at this stage, what's your best guess?
No price yet. It is coming out in holiday 2025. That's what they said, holiday 2025. So you will see this thing this year. No price, but I have some sneaking suspicions on how much this thing will be. It's going to be expensive, let me tell you that much, because the Z2 Extreme processor that's some high level stuff, and you got to pay top dollar for that. And the first Asus ROG Ally was not cheap either, and things have only gotten more expensive. I'm gonna guess, again, this is just a guess. I don't got any insider
Don't try this at home, kids. We have a professional here.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that the Xbox Ally X will probably go for maybe $800. And maybe the lower level, the regular Xbox Ally will probably be $600 or $650.
Okay.
Like, these are powerful PCs, basically. And people pay top dollar for gaming PCs. This is kind of in that tier. It's kind of a technical marvel in terms of packing that power into a handheld. So you pay a premium for that as well.
But if I can take my Game Pass library anywhere I go, that might be worth it for me.
It's pretty sick, yeah. And thinking a little bit outside of the handheld itself, now when you look at the market now, where you have Steam Deck, you have Switch 2, you have a previous Switch, every MSI has their own thing. Every PC manufacturer under the umbrella has their own handheld. And so Asus has been in this game for a while now. They're very good at what they do, but, it's kind of, there's just a lot of options out there, and is it able
That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it could be a good thing, but also you might struggle with being able to stand out. But I do think the small things like the ergonomics, like the Xbox integration, and that Z2 processor, I think those are the things that are going to really help it stand out from all the handhelds that we can choose from. I'm excited to see more of this thing, to see how it advances, how the Xbox app runs in future updates.
To benchmark it on some actual current
and I would love to benchmark that thing on something actually graphically demanding.
Let's see what Doom the Dark Ages does.
Yeah, it would. I have high hopes though, because they're working with some serious power on this one.
All right, well, we'll have a lot more on the Xbox handheld in the coming weeks and months. But in the meantime, for all things Xbox, you're already in the right place right here at IGN.